one of the things that's, okay, I've started recording, so we're going to introduce ourselves again this way that when people watch this afterwards, then they'll know where to find you, who you are, and everything. So my name is Marcy Bond. I am the publisher and CEO and founder of Wild Child Publishing and Phrase Power. You can find me on Facebook under Marcy Bond, Twitter under Marcy Bond, pretty much everywhere under Marcy Bond. That's M-A-R-C-I, B as in boy, A-U-N as in Nancy. And these are a couple of my lovely authors, and I would like them to introduce themselves. First, before we start talking about your question, DEF CON 3D, about marketing on Amazon and Kindle. So go ahead. So you can start, Jim.
Okay. I'm Jim Greer. I live in Lakewood, Colorado. I'm a police officer, a police sergeant. I've been in law enforcement on and off, mostly on since 1979. I'm also an attorney. I've written a number of suspense books. They all include a main character who's a woman police officer. I've lived in Colorado most of my life, but I grew up mainly in Pennsylvania and also in upstate New York.
And where can they find you and your books?
I am on Facebook, Jim Greer, on Twitter at Jim in LKE, and I have a blog. It's Bike Cop Blog, all one word, at blogspot.com. If you type in just Bike Cop Blog, you'll get to that.
Right there?
That's it.
Okay. And Ruth, how about you?
Okay, so I'm Ruth G. Zavitsanos. I've been writing with Wild Child Publishing on my children's chapter books for, I'm going to say, like the past 7 years, because the first one, or past 6 years. First one came out in 2010. So, and the first one was The Villa Dog. It was a story that was inspired after taking a trip with my family to Tuscany, and we stayed in a villa, and we came across this dog. And it's done very well. It's been nominated for numerous awards, and I get a lot of great feedback on it. It's been a third grade book club read. And after that, I continued, and I actually wrote a second book, The Old Fortress Dog, which takes place in Greece on the island of Corfu, which I'm fortunate enough to call a place that we go to almost every other year. It's like our home away from home. The third book is The Kona Dog. We went there in 2010, took a family vacation, so the research has been great. And the fourth book that I recently just did is this one. It's The Valley Forge Dog. Takes place in nearby Valley Forge at the National Park, which is truly a gem in what I call my backyard. So I've been writing forever, and when I say that, probably I was like 9 or 10, hacking away on a typewriter. I majored in journalism, did some news reporting and feature writing, and being a stay-at-home mom, I've been fortunate enough to follow my passion, and I'm really pleased with where it's gone. Like I said, everybody seems to enjoy my books. They're told through the dog's point of view. They're set in exotic and unique locations, and this last one is a historical fiction.
Now, I know that the Villa Dog, because that's where I met you in person, actually was a finalist, right? Was actually a finalist for the Epic ebook Award.
Yes, that's correct. And Mainline Magazine, which you may have heard of, is a very large regional magazine, and they chose it as an editorial pick.
That's awesome. Now, where can they find you? Is it ruthzonline.com?
Correct. ruthzonline.com. You see it up there. That's great.
Yeah, well, I typed it in there. Because, so to get back to your question, DEF CON 3D, is that yes, some of the marketing that we do, all of the books are on Amazon. They're also on iTunes. They're also available through Barnes & Noble. They're available through Kobo, all romance ebooks, as well as OmniLit. And we're also available through overdrive.com, which goes to all the libraries. So if you see any of these books, they should be available on libraries. And if they aren't, you can always contact me and I will make sure that they get there. But as for marketing on Amazon and Kindle, yes, there's certain things that you can do. And Ruth's are also available in print format because kids really do still prefer, for the most part, print format. I know my daughter, who's 11 and a half, does. So, but as far as marketing on Amazon and Kindle, one of the biggest ways is making sure that you have your books in the right categories. And Amazon will give you, if you look for instance, you can Google, how do I get my book into this specific category? And you want to know what category that is. You can go into Amazon and say, okay, my book is a children's book. Okay, let's make it more specific. It's a dog book. How am I, are any of your books on audio yet, Ruth?
Yes.
The Villa Dog, right?
The Villa Dog, and just the Villa Dog. You're right. I was trying to think. I know I'm in the process of maybe getting one other one online on audio, but I need to start getting the rest of them. So yeah, the Villa Dog is definitely audio.
Yeah. So the thing is that if you go and you search, say, I want to make sure that my kid's book that's about a dog and a dog narrator is going to come up under children's books, animals, dog, you can search for how to get that on through Google, on Amazon, through the Kindle. And Amazon actually has in its help section what keywords to use in order to make sure that you get into these subsets, these subcategories. It's something that I have done for Ruth's books. Actually, I do it for all of our books. I also did it for your recent book, Jim. And if you notice, if you go onto Amazon and you go onto Kindle and you look for The Heart of the Matter, you will see that it's in some of the smaller subcategories, not just in under suspense. And the reason I did that is some of these smaller subcategories will help you get, if to say you have 1,300 books in some of these smaller subcategories, as opposed to how many thousands of books in the suspense category, and that will help you get higher up on the ranking. And the higher the ranking you are, the better chance you have of people finding you. Does that answer some of your question, DEFCON? Hopefully it did. Great. So that's one of the ways. And then you promote it through other ways. I know that Amazon also has, one of our authors just wrote an article that she was able, I had sent her information about how you can write an article and you can send it to Amazon and possibly get them to feature it. And if they do feature it, depending on what they're focusing on at any given time, that will also feature your book. And that a lot of times will propel somebody's book because they send it out in all of their newsletters to everybody. And I've known people who have gotten their book featured and suddenly they are a bestseller and they're selling like over 1,000 books. So it's not easy to do, but it's something that you have to stay on top of. Now, I took a long time to answer your question. Well, really not that long, but it seems like I've been talking for hours now. And I really want to be able to talk to Jim and Ruth. And I wanted to find out, so what I find fascinating with your books, Jim, is how well you do writing a female POV, especially a female police woman. It's so realistic. And I know that one of your reviews said, well, you spent too much time on the mommy for The Heart of the Matter, the mommy section, and it could have been cut down. But then you have women who say, well, when you're really dealing with and in the midst of being pregnant, it does take over your life. So you can't ignore that part. And so I think for a lot of women, this is going to resonate with them, especially those who've had kids, because right, Ruth, once you become pregnant, it like takes over your entire life.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, you can't escape it any day until you're done, so.
I started when I was pregnant.
I think
it wasn't easy. I had to go to the bathroom a lot, so yeah.
Yeah.
So I got that one right.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, it does.
I think especially in our profession where you are, you're expected to be physically capable of doing the job, not just mentally capable of doing it. Once a woman becomes pregnant, she gets taken off the street, put in a job that's largely administrative, and we as a profession are very used to being active. And when you sit somebody behind a desk when they don't want to, talk about taking over their lives. Now a big chunk of sometimes their self-image is lost. They can't wear the uniforms because they don't fit. They can't wear a gun belt because it's uncomfortable. They're not allowed to go to the range because of the lead, and on and on and on. So while I respect any review, positive or negative, of anything I write, I find it difficult to chop up the experience of a woman police officer when she's pregnant in order to get to, I guess, the heart of the matter of the book, which is the mystery.
Right. Right. Well, it was also written by a man, and while I respect him, and he loved the book, he said you write beautifully, and it was well.
I was well edited.
Well, I would have to agree. Since I'm the one who edited it, what can I say? But what did you find about the process of writing that was different? I mean, so the first time that you were edited for the book and you signed on with us, which was a parasol in a hurricane. Mm-hmm. And that's when we were first introduced to Karen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you find different about the writing process as opposed to the editing process? Did it surprise you with anything?
I think that the hardest thing is to learn how to accept feedback about something that you're more attuned to than your editor. The first editor was excellent. Chuck was just an excellent resource, but there were times that he and I would had conflict. Especially, there was one email back and forth that he said, "Well, police women don't talk like that," and and of course, naturally, I had to go back to the policewoman who had said the things that I had written and say, "You're not supposed to talk like that." And,
how did that go over?
With her?
Yeah.
We all had a good laugh. It was everybody knows when the little black book comes out and I start writing in it what I'm doing. I'm stealing their words and giving them to Karen or somebody else. And we got over that. We got through that by okay, if you don't want that, then I can give you something else. We can go in a different direction with the dialogue. It was difficult to learn how to accept constructive criticism about something that I know a lot about, and oftentimes it meant opening up the file, looking at the edits, closing the file, turning off the computer, going out for a bike ride, coming back to the computer, opening it up, taking a deep breath, and saying, "Okay, I don't have anyone who's written for publication knows that once the publisher says yes, here's your contract, sign, and we'll make this work. It doesn't entirely belong to you anymore." And that was I had to get over that.
Right. Now, did you find it to be the same thing for you, Ruth, when your first time your book was edited?
I took a lot of bike rides. I do take a lot of bike rides to clear my head and readdress things. And often it's for the better when I come back and think about what you've said or whoever was editing it at the time. And usually, I don't go against the grain. There are some times when I'll be like, but it's nothing. It's constant. It's all good.
It's all good. Well, as an editor, I try not to change too much. I know I made you cut out a lot of POVs, Jim, in this last one. But when you went through the novel, I think that you saw how much tighter it got, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a point to the book, and I think sometimes too many diversions. I would assume that some readers say, "Well, okay, that's all well and good, but where are we going? Where are you taking me? And if you're taking me in this person's POV, then why don't you write a book about this person?"
Right.
Which is not only is it a valid criticism, but it also gives me a chance to write something else.
Well, I'm always looking for those. Actually, I've done this with a number of authors where they suddenly introduce someone else's POV, and we're 30 pages or 40 pages into a book. You don't really do this, Ruth, although I've had to. Sometimes you don't realize you're slipping into another POV, point of view, for those of you who don't know what that means. So we're in one person's point of view, like the heroines or the dogs in your case, and suddenly we're in the parents' point of view. And it doesn't, and if it were the dog, we can't really do that with a dog story, unlike Jim's, where you can move from, in the heart of the matter, for instance, we have Karen, and then we have her significant other's POV. And forgive me, I have forgotten his name, but not that he
Adam.
is Adam. That's right. So Karen and Adam, and we have Adam's POV, which is also valid because it's interesting to see how the spouse of a police officer or a first responder. She is a police officer, but she's also a first responder, and how they deal with everything that's going down, especially when they know that their spouse is going into, or significant other is going into a dangerous situation, and how scary that must be. So I haven't really had to worry so much about the point of view with Ruth and having multiple points of view, because she has the dog, and it's hard to switch between a dog and a kid. So yeah, does that make sense, right? You wouldn't want to switch from between a dog and a kid.
That's all I do.
But the kids love your books.
They do. They really are excited to read them. One of the things I find out when I go out to my book signings is, oh, I read this and this, and I want to read the other two. And so it's great that they are looking to read all of them after they read the first one. That's the greatest compliment.
So what's your next book? What's your next dog book?
I'm thinking about Gettysburg. I'm thinking about staying with the historical fiction, Gettysburg or Colonial Williamsburg. So those are my two thoughts. Gettysburg is close. It's only 2 hours away.
Right.
I can go do my research in the spring, check that out. Williamsburg is only 3 hours, so both of them are very doable. And I was just waiting to see what was going on with the Valley Forge dog, and it seems to be well received.
That's great. That's really great. So, and what's your next project, Jim?
I have a manuscript that's finished. It's a different character named Cece. It's a sort of a pseudo-political suspense. She's a young policewoman who is at the critical stage for all of us, which is about 5 years into her career. And she's trying to decide whether she wants to stay in law enforcement. She's at a rural sheriff's department and wants to discover what it's like to work in a bigger city. And it involves gun confiscation and drones and all kinds of stuff like that. So
drones, very timely.
Is this Karen's friend, Cece, or is?
No, this is a completely different character.
Okay.
This is I was trying to decide what to do next with writing, and Not that I was bored with Karen or with Amy Painter, who is the self-published that I just brought out. But I wanted to talk about the younger police women, the ones that get in. They're idealistic. They think they know what they're getting into. They really don't. And what happens when kind of the veneer is stripped away, and so I invented a new character, and fortunately there was a friend at work that helped me to make her a little more realistic, and went from there.
Well, that's great. That's great. So you're looking at Gettysburg, Ruth, I'm sorry. You're looking at Gettysburg and Colonial Williamsburg.
Correct.
And you're looking at another kick-ass heroine who is a policewoman. Okay, so Jim, what was your background in law enforcement? I guess he missed or DEF CON is asking us what your background in law enforcement is.
Okay, I started at Greenwood Village Police Department, which is a small department in suburban Denver. And I went to Lakewood, which is, we have about 260 people sworn on our department. I've been a patrol officer. I was a CSI. I was on the SWAT team as a negotiator. I was a bike patrol officer, and after I got promoted, I coordinate the bike patrol program. I've been a detective and a detective sergeant. Right now I'm the sergeant in our training unit, primarily assigned to the police academy. So
now I remember you recently, okay, sounds like you spent many years on the force. He's still on the force, aren't you, Jim?
Right. Yeah, I'm in year, I think 31 total. I took 5 years off to go to law school and practice law for a couple of years. And so I was coming up on 37 years since I first started in law enforcement, and I'll probably finish it in 2019 with 35 years of service.
Did you find that going to law school and practicing as a lawyer, did that help you with your police work, or? Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Law enforcement and practicing law and being in law school are all sort of intertwined in that when a police officer arrives at the scene of an incident, goes to a call, the very first thing they want to find out is what's the problem, what's the issue that's creating the conflict. That's primarily what you learn in law school, is how to look at a fact pattern and draw out the issues. So after having that kind of training, I go to a call, and it would take me a lot less time to really get to the root problem and what we were going to have to do to solve it. So the training was excellent. You can't beat training in law in learning how the law works and is supposed to work and really works and stuff like that. But having the issue-based training was really very useful.
I think you'll find it interesting that I'm actually, even as, well, not as we speak, but I have been editing a memoir of a narc. And
wow.
Yeah, and so it's fascinating. And at some point, I would like to get the two of you on together, because he worked in Berkeley during the 70s. And and then he moved out to the Central Valley of California, and he was this was still in the 70s, pretty much in the 70s. So he didn't have a lot of training when he first went in, and you kind of learned on the job, but he ended up being, he worked long enough, and he ended up where he became a trainer at the police academy. And
cool. Yeah,
and so I thought that would be really fun. I'm not ignoring you, Ruth, down there. I know.
I've been thinking that he and I could get together and do the canine dog.
That would be cool.
Oh, I've got
That's where my mind was going the whole time.
right. I've got a friend that's writing a book about his canine, so I'd probably actually get you two together.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that would be cool. I'm all for it.
And I thought of your whole scenario, I thought the bike patrol part was the best, but that because I like my bicycle, and I'm thinking that's kind of a cool.
There's really no better way to be a street cop than on a bike. And everybody, you get the thing, well, what did you do to deserve that? And, all those other kinds of things. And it's like, no, it's exactly the opposite. Sticking me in a police car just isn't, it's not a lot of fun, but being on the bike is just a hoot. Especially it's 95 degrees out and somebody rolls up to you and rolls their window down out of an air-conditioned car and says, "Aren't you hot?" And of course the answer is, of course I am. The double entendre kind of works, but when it's 95 out and you're wearing a bulletproof vest and all this equipment and all that other stuff, and you're riding a mountain bike, yeah, it's hot.
Yeah.
Got it.
Did you ever have issues with, I used to actually cycle quite a bit, not as much as you did because you were on it, every day, but I used to ride between 60 and 100 miles a week. And, and I think for me, there were two things that I found very frustrating. One was when I saw cyclists be jerks and not obey the law or do something really, really stupid. And I'm sure that this does the same thing for Ruth as well.
Well, it applies for everything for me. When I'm driving my car, I can't stand when other drivers are being stupid.
Well, yeah, but what ends up happening is that when you have cyclists who are being jerks, then a lot of times the regular motorist who doesn't cycle and doesn't know what it's like to be on a bike and have a car pass you within 2 inches and that close to hit you. I was out, this was a long time ago when I was up visiting my mom, and I was out riding in the country by myself, and I was not that far from the house, but I'd been out riding for 20 miles or so, and someone threw out their Coke cup and hit me with it. And they don't realize that that's kind of dangerous. I am on the side of the road. I'm out in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, so it's ups and downs, and then there's also rocks that you're contending with. But sometimes then also you have motorists who express rage at you for not even being in their way because someone else who was on a bike wasn't paying, wasn't paying attention or was ran a stoplight or, something like that.
When I'm out riding my road bike, obviously I don't want anybody to know what I do for a living because you're vulnerable and not armed, and I've had all kinds of stuff thrown at me, horns honked at me, and things like that for basically staying in my own lane and riding along the road. I can't count the number of times I've been told, get up on the sidewalk. Okay, that's where people are walking,
and it's illegal.
And in some places it is absolutely.
It's illegal.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, I should tell the people to go to California or something like that. On the police bike, obviously, with all the insignias and all that other stuff, I get treated a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it does my heart good when somebody on a bicycle does something in front of me, like blows through a stop sign or something like that, and being able to write them a ticket is, it's something that I think people need to see, need to experience more often. I have a number of friends that I ride with and say, let's just go blow through the stop sign. No. Have we just met?
Well, I'll have to say that if I don't see anybody coming and there's no, like there's no danger with that, if we're like a 4-way stop or something, I will blow through a stop sign slowly. If I see a car coming up and and it's going to be me and them. I slow down, and a lot of times they'll wave me through. But if they don't, and it's not my right of way, I will stop, because that's,
Sure.
you just don't do, and especially in California, there's the famous California stop for a drink.
I'm fortunate. Out here we have so many bike trails, and one of them actually, there's a really good one at Valley Forge that I go on, and there's one called Chestmont, which is the Chester County, Montgomery County, and they run into each other, and it runs about, I think it's almost 20 miles each way. So I'm fortunate to have those where I don't have to contend with anything but, maybe a few strollers, other cyclists who can be rude, and walkers, but that's about it. So that's kind of nice, and it's very wide. I love that they made it wide. There's another one local that's very narrow that is tricky. So, but yeah, I mean, it's my head clearer. So I wouldn't want to deal with any of the stuff you guys are talking about. Well, not my head clearer.
Well, you're in more rural, but in like Los Angeles, it was built for driving. And so they've actually passed a law, I believe, in California, all of California now. I mean, because DEFCON 3D was saying lane sharing was different when I came to California with bikes. Well, they've just passed a law saying that you have to allow 3 feet between you and the cyclist, because there have been some horrible accidents where even if they were on the side of the road, a driver hit and killed the cyclist. And so now they're trying, so you have to leave 3 feet. Now, as a driver, I always did. But then I was a cyclist, and I knew what it was like to ride on a small lane highway and have a semi go past me at 60 miles an hour and miss me by like 2 inches. So, I mean, that's always fun. You may or may not have experienced that, Jim, but that was like, okay, there's this section of road, and I am going to ride 25, 30 miles an hour to get off this section of road, because the side of the road is literally that white line.
Yeah, I was run off the road into a ditch, into a fairly deep ditch in Yellowstone National Park by an RV, and as I'm tumbling head over heels, I'm looking at the vehicle as it disappears around a curve, and it's got a big smiley face thing on its spare tire on the back, and it's like, yeah, thanks. Just exactly the same thing that you're describing. They came, I don't know, I didn't get brushed, but they came within inches of the bike, and next thing I know, I'm off the road.
Yeah. It can be really scary. This particular one, this section that I'm thinking about, comes off a bridge that goes over a river, and that white section, right on the other side of that white section, is probably an 8 to 10 foot drop. Wow. So if you got blown off that, then you're straight down into like a barbed wire fence.
That would be a bad day.
that would be more than a bad day. And if you got, so that's why usually that particular section, this is up by my mom's house out in the country, that particular section, I used to ride, like I said, like 25, 30 miles an hour. And it was about maybe a quarter of a mile to where I could turn off onto a road that is not as busy, and so then I don't have to worry about the people. A semi, because it's also a 2-lane highway, so it's frequented a lot by semis. Yeah. So, but you have no other options if you want to. There's just some things that you deal with. Boy, we got completely sidetracked, which made me think though, as we're talking about this, I'm like, you have so much experience with being a bike cop. It would be really interesting to have one of your characters be a bike cop. Not be the only thing that they do, but you know what I mean, because it's a completely different mindset. And what I also like about your books is it gives a different viewpoint, because now in the media, there has been so much backlash on cops. Even though there are a lot of really good cops out there, all we seem to see are all the cops that are abusing their power. Now, there are cops that do that, but there's also a lot that are really out there to protect people.
It's not the best time to be in this business, and it is one of the joys of having both the blog and the novels is I'm not going to write a book. I never will, with the main character being sleazy or anything like that. It's just not. Other authors do that, and I'll let them have that field. What I try to portray is what it's really like to be in our business. What it's like for the women police officers, primarily, but what it's like for the rest of us, and the fact that we're people. We don't leave our shortcomings at home or in our locker, much as we might try. We still get tired. We still get short-tempered. We're people, but we're people trying our dead level best to do a difficult job well. And when I get rolling with the writing, and I get a feeling that I'm being authentic and all that other stuff, it makes me feel like I'm paying back to a profession that's given me a great deal.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's great.
Thank you.
Something like
Something.
Go ahead.
Electric Light in Blue. Yeah. And DEFCON 3D, you can't see me, but I'm probably not a whole lot taller than Robert Blake. But motorcycles scare me. I'd rather be the motor than have to ride a motorcycle.
Now, Ruth, you started what? I know that you love dogs.
I do. I have a dog nearby that's trying to come in here. I do love dogs.
Now, so what inspired you? You have two. That's right, Rocky and your older
the
girl.
Flintstones. Think the Flintstones.
Pebbles. That's right. I got it. Pebbles.
And I was going to guess Bullwinkle, but maybe that dates me.
True, we thought about that. But
Yeah.
Pebbles came first, so then we went.
Okay.
So what started? I pretty much watched my kids when they would come home from school and just kind of tumble onto the couch and reel in their dog and, kind of give the dog a hug and just pet the dog, and then, eventually come around and talk to mom on whatever level their day was. But I just think the dogs sense a lot, and they're given a lot in the quiet manner without, taking anybody down. But I just think that they have that high sensitivity, and that's what I do in my books is bring that out.
That the dogs talk to you.
Yeah.
And they
they talk to me. I'm not so much that, but just that they have this high sensitivity factor that they know. They just have this. They sense when things are wrong, whether it be a storm is coming, somebody unfamiliar is walking past the mailbox, you're not feeling so great, and you go to reach for the blanket and they come over to you, that kind of thing. That's their innate sense.
Have you read that there is actually a hospital, I believe, in England, maybe it's England, that are training dogs because dogs can smell cancer.
Right.
And they can smell cancer long before they can even detect it. Or they can detect it, but the dog can smell and knows it's there before they would even know to test for it.
Right. And therapy dogs are doing a lot for people, suffering with anxiety, suffering with autism. The dogs are just really helping people to work through that.
Well, one of the challenges though is now all these people are saying their dogs are therapy dogs, and then they're bringing them everywhere and into the restaurants, and at least here in California, people are saying take your dog. You don't need your dog's hair here. You don't need them in the restaurant. You know, I deal enough with cat hair at my house, and you know, sometimes I find cat hair in my food, and they're not anywhere near me, and I don't know how the cat hair got there. But I don't want to go to a restaurant and spend like $30 or $40 to have dog hair in my food.
Well, we have a few pet-friendly outdoor seating, and that I like. Like Rocky comes and they have a little doggy menu, and they give you a little cup of water for him, and he just pretty much lays at our feet and looks around. I wouldn't bring Pebbles because she's big and she barks at people and stuff, although she's friendly. But you know, for those outdoor places, I think it's fine, but I wouldn't want animals inside. Although, you know, in Greece, there's cats everywhere. So I mean, they're all over the place. You'll be, and I'm not a huge cat person. So when I'm eating and I'm seeing the cats meandering around me, I'm like, but you know, it's okay. One of my dog's best friend is a cat. In fact, people, you're not a cat. Do you ever write about cat? And I have a good best friend cat, so that's good. So, but yeah, so I do love dogs.
Are you a cat or dog person, Jim, or are you neither?
I'm probably more of a dog person than a cat person. We have both. We have 2 dogs and a cat.
Not a feline unit.
Say again?
There's a canine unit, not a feline unit. Just saying. Because you know what the cats would do? They'd be like, wait a minute, trouble? I'm out of here.
There was a day when we were chasing 3 guys out of a burglary, and we found 2 of them.
A cat burglary?
And this woman calls us up that saw the police activity, and she said, my cat's acting really weird in our backyard. And so she described that the cat was wandering around a boat that they had back there, and it was really unusual behavior for the cat. And we went into the backyard, and the guy was there. So cats eat less, and I don't know if they require less training or they accept less training. But,
they accept.
But we were joking that we had run a canine unit through that area, and the canine hadn't found anything. But this woman's attack cat was able to find this guy in his boat. We have 2 Portuguese water dogs, and everything you're describing about dogs, about sensitivities and stuff like that. I know one of them, when the Broncos are playing and they're stinking the place up, and I'm screaming at the TV. There's one dog that it gets very clingy because, you know, obviously I'm upset, and what I really need is a cat to sit on my lap. Or I'm sorry, a dog to sit on my lap. And so I end up with a 55-pound Portuguese water dog on my lap going, oh, it's okay, Dad. They'll get better. Yeah, we've had a number of dogs and a number of cats over the years, and I'm probably more of a dog person.
There you go.
Well, I'm obviously a cat person.
I know.
I have 3. And you're right, they will train if they want to, or they don't. But
so no matter what you have in the way of animals, kids love animals. So that's why I've incorporated dolphins and cats and horses, a variety of animals. Now, granted, the point of view, the main character is a dog, but I try to incorporate other animals. And when I ask a classroom of kids, you know, do you have a pet? A lot of them raise their hand, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a dog. And some of them are cats, and some of them just want a certain animal. So I tried to, you know, like this last book, the Valley Forge dog, the dogs really help save a horse's life. And actually, I heard that there was a lot of horses back then. A lot did not make it, and some did. There was a whole force of horses that did. So it was all taken from back.
From that time period. Well,
Yes.
I was also going to tell you, that my editor, Sean Howen, you've probably seen her on Facebook and stuff.
Yes.
She's diabetic, and she's actually severely diabetic, but she is a rescue, or they were more of a rescue, and she has something like 17 cats right now, and they're all rescues. But the cat, so she has a cat colony, and there is a leader of the cat colony, and he makes sure that all the other cats get fed, that every cat gets to eat. He keeps them from too much fighting, and then also certain of her cats have learned. There's one that would wake her up when her blood sugar level got too low, and it has taught the first one that did that has now taught another cat to do that, because that one's getting old, and I think that one passed.
Oh, wow.
It taught the younger kitten how to do it. So that cat's now in charge of doing that. But that cat's also teaching another cat how to wake her up if she gets her blood sugar is too low, or if she's having some type of heart issue. So, it's really amazing what animals do, especially when they're attached to people. And because I know dogs will do that as well if something's going on.
My dogs, they become aloof. They ignore me. They're like, well, you're leaving us? We're not listening to you. They get, they get very annoyed. And yeah, so every time a suitcase comes out, only mine. My husband can travel, a lot. They don't care. But as soon as mine comes out, they very aloof.
And on the opposite side, my cats will climb into our suitcases. So, follow us around. This morning, one of our cats she likes to get into plastic bags, maybe not anymore. And she got her head stuck in the hole. I know. Well, I managed to get her before she went racing off through the house trying to get out, because that's actually very dangerous for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it was, she's just a funny cat. Our male cat, Boy Kitty, did that. And now if I bring out plastic bags and he starts hearing that crinkling of plastic bags, he's gone.
Yeah, they know. Their sense. So I'm a dog lover. Always will be. Always will be.
Well, I guess there has to be all kinds of people in the world. So.
Well, and like I said, I try to create different animals in my books. Not create, but mention the different animals too. So. And then the Villa dog, it was funny because he was a typical dog. He didn't want to deal with the cat that was chasing the mouse, and the other animals were an annoyance. Whereas in the next one, the old Fortress dog, Leonidas saves the life of. In this book, Leonidas saves the cat's life. So so I try to. Show the reality of it, because I know some cats do go on great with dogs. Very, so my dogs don't want any parts of cats, but that's just my dog. So.
Well, when I was a child, we had a dog, and then we had some cats. And the first time the cat had kittens, this was when it was the big thing to, to fix them, spay them. He actually, I think he ate the first batch of kittens.
Oh my gosh.
It's a dog. And so we had to train him. So the second time she had kittens, we made him lay down and we put the kittens on top of him. And we didn't let him do anything. And so after that, he never bothered any of our cats because he got in big trouble the first time.
There you go.
And so, but he didn't like anybody else's cats. So, but he was like, okay, these are family cats. I don't bother the family cats.
Right. They get it. They know their boundaries. They do.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the biggest challenges you would say to writing a book? Anyone? What would you say is the biggest challenge?
The biggest?
Yeah, I always have the hardest time is that opening page. I always have trouble with the first page. I think because my thoughts go so fast, I'm already on page 12 and I'm still, I should be writing page 1. And I think I often, the first page, exactly where to start it. But after that, I really get rolling and just, trying to, find, the thing about writing for me is it has to be uninterrupted and I have to be in this focus zone. I have to be totally focused, laser focused. That's somebody I was researching the other day said that. And that's great to say that because you do have to be, at least I do when I'm really putting together my storyline. So that would be my biggest thing is uninterrupted and going with that laser focus so that
And you, Jim? I think it's trusting my characters to solve the problems that I throw at them. I know them so well. They're real people to me, and when I put them in a situation, I find it very difficult to write something if I'm forcing an outcome. I'm often surprised at what happens, how the characters resolve the situations. But the hardest thing I have is to trust the characters to do what the characters are going to do instead of imposing things. And then it becomes kind of wooden and stilted, and I can't even stand to read it.
I'm actually with you there. So he says, how close do you follow a general outline for your stories? This is DEFCON 3D is asking this question.
I follow it really closely, and it never works out that way. I have a general idea where I'm going. I almost always know what the result is going to be, what the solution at the end of the book is going to be, from the very beginning. And of course, saying that the one that the political suspense one, I completely rewrote the ending 4 or 5 times. The problem that I have with following an outline is, again, I don't know where the characters are going to go. I know what I want the story to. I know the story I want to tell. The manner of the telling is usually the details, and like Ruth says about the laser focus. If I lose focus on what I want the book to say, I'm not sure an outline would help. So I have a general idea of where I want to take the characters and where I want to take the story, but they surprise me so often with some of the imaginative outcomes that it's almost a waste of time to be too detailed on an outline.
I used an outline to a degree for the Valley Forge dog, more of a chronological outline, and the factual historical facts that I had to follow to, when was Martha Washington actually there? When did it snow? What was the weather like that day? So I had to kind of outline that for my story to take on the realism of the time.
Well, I can tell you, I occasionally write a few stories, and when I have, like you said, Jim, when I have tried to force what I wanted the characters to do, it was like I had maniacal laughter in my head, and they just went, we're going to do this, woman. Screw you. We don't want to do what you want to do, because I thought, this would be a perfect place for them, because it had some sex in it. This would be a perfect place to have sex. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not happening right now.
I think they're Catholic.
Or I thought, we're not going to do the sex thing right now. It's like, no, we are, and you're going to write it. I'm like, thanks, right? Thanks for the props, DEFCON 3D. So yeah, it was. I also find that when I do outlines like that, and if I were to outline every single chapter, I get bored with the story, and I can't even motivate myself to write. I mean, I know there's people who use them very successfully, but I'm more of a seat of the pants writer, and because of that. Then I'm bored with the story. I know what's going to happen. I like it better when I, as the author, don't really know where I'm going with it. I kind of have a general idea, but I don't.
And that sometimes it generates a lot of fluff and a lot of crap to let your characters go, and in the editing process, it's like, okay, you're sort of reining them in a little bit so that the story's a little more focused. But,
yeah.
But goodness gracious, I'm when you get in the zone, it's like an athlete that gets in the zone, and the words just flow and the story just unfolds. And at that point, and I feel funny saying this to my publisher. At that point, I really don't care if anybody buys it, even if anybody reads it. It's just so much fun. It's so rewarding to do.
Right.
That's kind of the motivating factor. Sometimes it's just, gosh, this is fun.
Right. Right. No, I mean, to a certain degree, you do need to you have to have fun writing it, or you're not going to want to write it. It's that simple. You know, I think that's for all of us. The second the story becomes unfun, that's not even a word, but you know, the second the story is no longer interesting to you, or has become no longer fun to write, then that's when I can't write anymore. I don't know. Do you find that to be the case too? It's like you have to somehow find a way to make it interesting again, because I'm very good at writing myself into corners.
Right.
I have young readers, so I try to entice them with the action. You know, because again, it's a young reader, so you've got to keep them engaged. And I always get these dogs into little scenarios that keeps them engaged, but it's not anything that the dog would not handle. It's true to the dog's character. But yeah, I mean, I've come up with snakes and mice and whatever it takes, you know, and then of course shoot, you know, an attempted murder on the president. So I do what to keep the story moving and the young reader engaged.
Yeah, well, it's like anything. You do need to keep the action moving. And I think even for adults, very few adults want to read something that isn't moving forward and that you don't see an arc in the story, not just the storyline, but in the characters of how they're growing and things are changing for them. I think even in the Valley Forge dog, you see a growth in the dog.
Yes.
And not just because it's aging, but because it's learning new things.
Right. And it becomes more competent because it's getting the encouragement and the gratitude of the people that it's there to protect and guide. So. Right.
No, I agree.
And that's not to say that it's all fun and games. I think my writing instructor years ago told me that when you're in the final stages of getting a book out, you can't stand your characters anymore. You want them all to die, and go away because you've read the story so many times. You know, the countless times that you've gone over it and over and over and over and over it. It's like I am so over this character and over this story. Let's end it now. I think that's the hardest part for me for writing is in the final stages. I've read the story so many times. I know it so well. It's like, okay,
How do you think your editor feels? No.
I'm sure it's the kind of thing where the editor's going, please just fix it and let's get this over with. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I've gotten more concise in what I say to you because I've worked with both of you enough that you know what I'm asking you to do now. And so I don't feel like I have to do a big, long explanation. I mean, for instance, like the article that you wrote for the Huffington Post the other day, and you said you wrote.
You're kind enough to help me edit because my mind just goes. Anyway, yeah.
And then you said, wow, this was a tough edit this time. And it's like, it's the holidays, and I don't have a lot of time to sugarcoat this. Let's fix this thing, and you can figure it out. I'm not going to give you any examples, and you actually did a very good job. So
thank you. But I start out. Well, here was my mind. I'm not going to overdo this because everybody's talking about New Year's resolutions. I'm going to keep it short and sweet and be done with it. And it was like 549 words of, I would say 200 or torture, because I was trying to make sense of things that, I was okay with, but then you brought it up, and okay, it's not where it should be. So then to bring it up to standard, it took, 549 words can be a lot more difficult than 1,000. It's just that kind of a business.
And it also felt like you were trying too hard to use some of the bigger words.
Oh, I'm sure I was. But you know what? It was one of my most liked blogs. So
that's
if
great.
That's the return on it, I'm fine with that. So
I was going to say the multisyllabic. You got to be careful with the multisyllable words.
somebody wrote back to me. I put it on my alma mater loop, and somebody wrote back and 3 paragraphs on what they got from it, and not to take away from what you've written, but I want to add this, the negativity, blah 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 blah. And I said to my other friend, I don't know, it sounds like, I think they enjoyed it, but I think I got them riled up. And she said, well, if you've gotten them engaged enough to actually send you a long response, that's great. So it was good. There you go.
Well, I get what they were saying, but you were also saying, here's all of the negative stuff that I don't want to take with me.
Right. Exactly.
And they were saying, why don't you?
And I want to appreciate the positive. I'm not taking, for granted this, that, and the other.
Right.
It's kind of like a play on words too, because I think, I just feel like right now everybody is very much, especially at this time of the year, we're almost a little too hard on ourselves, and I think we need to kind of embrace the good and just not overthink things. It's life, and we want to make the most of it, but there's no perfection, and we just have to kind of do our best. And like I said, I think the last line was, instead of trying to be perfect, I'm going to do the best I can, or whatever. I forgot that last line, but that seemed to hit home with a lot of people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can tell you, though, the most interesting things usually when I was in theater and on stage, that sometimes or often the most interesting moments during the play or during the opera were when someone made a mistake. And then we had to deal with that mistake, because suddenly you're not acting, you're still in the character, you're not acting, but you're in the moment, which is what makes live theater so exciting, is because you never know when someone's going to F up.
Right.
It's so many words, so, so if someone drops a prop and they're not supposed to, and if you leave it sitting in the middle of the stage and you don't pay any attention to it, that's where the attention of the entire audience is going to go. And so, but the mistakes often make it more interesting, or the moments in life that are, in my last Blab interview with Matt Campbell and R.A. McCandless and Sean Howen, Matt Campbell's cat came walking through, and all you saw was the tail of this cat. And so everybody's cracking up because the cat is literally walking across the keyboard. And so, those are the moments that, sometimes even when we're writing, we make a mistake of what we're, it's a mistake, and suddenly I say, oh, that was actually pretty good. I think I want to keep this.
Right.
Or you write a sentence and it's like, wow, I have to keep this, but it doesn't work.
Right.
And no matter what you do.
Awkward, or as you put, awkward.
Awkward. You like how I do that. I did that for you.
You don't understand. I have teenagers. Everything is awkward.
Well, my daughter's favorite thing to say is, and I'm going to see if I can do this right in the preteen attitude. Sure.
Oh, there you go. Sure.
Sure. Fine. or her other favorite is right. Right. It's like, you're not even a teenager yet. And you've already got this attitude. What am I going to do?
Well, and we used to say, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool, Mom. And my mother would say, did you even hear what I said? That's cool.
La, 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 la.
Exactly.
I did not hear you. So it is now 2:05, and for you it's 5:05, and I know that you, Ruth, are going to have to start getting ready for a party.
Yes.
And I know, Jim, that you probably have a life as well, and are going to be going out this evening. I don't know if we are, because I have no life. But no, I'm kidding. Well, I don't know if we're going out or not. We might be. My daughter's very excited because she wants to stay up until midnight this year. So before you go, be sure to tell them where they can find you. And welcome, Saba Communications. We are about to sign off. I'm sorry. Tell them again where they can find you, what your books are.
Well, whoever just came on, go back. Can they go back and listen?
Yes, they'll be able to watch this.
Well, there you go. So you can find me at www.ruthz, as in zebra, or Zavitsanos, ruthzonline.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. And I am under Goodreads. All my books are up on that. And I do answer emails. And I have 4 children's chapter books. My latest one is The Valley Forge Dog. It's a historical fiction, and for anybody who enjoys history, the Revolution times, and loves dogs. So there you go.
And I'm on Facebook as Jim Greer, on blog at Bike Cop Blog, all one word, .blogspot.com. Also Twitter, JIMNLKE, and on Amazon as James A. Greer. If you look for my books under Jim Greer, you won't find any, but it's James A. Greer.
Oh, can I just mention my Facebook page is Villa Dog, VILLA Dog. So that's my Facebook page.
And I'm Marcy Bond. You can find me on Facebook under Marcy Bond, my name. You can also find me on Twitter under my name. You can find me at finallypublished.com. You can find me at wildchildpublishing.com. All you have to do is Google my name and it'll bring me up, because there aren't very many Marcy Bonds running around the world, thankfully, because that would be scary. So thanks everyone for joining us, and I will be back again next Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time instead of 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This was just special for this time of year. I mean, for today. So again, tune in, and if you're interested, be sure to check out Jim's books and Ruth's books, and also Wild Child Publishing. And thank you for coming. All right. Bye-bye.